14 years. 14 years of love, trust and dreams were made together, only to unravel in the blink of an eye. It's funny how life never really follows the script you have in your mind. With the birth of our second child, the dynamics of our marriage began to shift in ways I could never have anticipated. My husband, once a pillar of support and love, started exhibiting odd behavior that sowed the seeds of discord and misunderstanding between us. Initially, the changes were subtle. His once warm and engaging presence at home began to wane. Nights previously reserved for family dinners and shared laughter were replaced with his absence. He started coming home late, offering silence and a palpable distance that I couldn't bridge no matter how hard I tried. Conversations became a series of monosyllabic responses from him if I received any response. His demeanor towards me shifted. The gentle tones and affectionate glances we once shared were now replaced with indifference and, sometimes, outright disdain. His behavior grew increasingly erratic as days turned into weeks and weeks into months. He would forget important dates, our child's doctor appointments, family gatherings, and even the minutiae of daily life that we used to find out together quickly. When I attempted to address these issues and understand what was causing this rift, my concerns were dismissed. My husband, who once sought my company and valued my opinion, now seemed to view our conversations as inconvenient. In my desperation, I reached out to his mother, hoping she could shed some light on the situation or perhaps speak some sense into him. However, fate dealt us another cruel hand. His mother, whom we both adored, was battling a severe illness. Her condition left her too sick to intervene or even provide the emotional support we had always relied on. Her sickness added another layer of stress and sadness to our already strained relationship. Amidst these trying times, several incidents stood out, marking the depth of our growing estrangement. On one occasion, our eldest child's birthday went by without a word from him. No wish, no present, not even his presence. He had chosen work over our child's milestone, a decision that left a bitter taste of neglect. Another time, during a family emergency when support was most needed, he was conspicuously absent, citing sudden work obligations that couldn't be postponed. It was as if the family we built together, the life we shared, had become secondary to an unknown priority that consumed him. His late nights became more frequent, and when questioned, his explanations were vague, laced with irritation that I dared to question him at all. It felt as though I was living with a stranger, a far cry from the loving partner I married. The man who stood before me was someone I no longer recognized, consumed by an inner turmoil he refused to share, leaving me to navigate the wreckage of our relationship alone. The man I had built my life with, the father of my children, had receded into a shell of his former self, leaving me to grapple with the realities of our crumbling marriage. The joy and excitement that greeted our second child's arrival were overshadowed by the realization that our family was fracturing, and I was powerless to stop it. The harmony we once shared had been replaced with tension and misunderstanding, a chasm that widened with every missed dinner, every forgotten anniversary, and every harsh word left unspoken. The unraveling of our once harmonious life took another sharp downturn when I noticed that the financial support, which had always been forthcoming from my husband for household necessities, suddenly became scarce. Every request for money to buy groceries, pay for the kids' needs, or maintain the house was met with excuses as varied as they were implausible. He'd claim forgetfulness one day. The next, he'd lament about unexpected expenses, or insist that we tighten our belts. However, these claims of financial prudence didn't seem to apply to his expenditures, which appeared unaffected, if not more extravagant than before. The situation became dire enough that I had to scrape together whatever little I could to ensure our home was healthy and our children's needs were met. During this tumultuous period, a close friend shared a suspicion that felt like a punch to the gut. She hesitantly suggested that my husband might be seeing someone else, theorizing that this was where all our financial resources were being diverted. According to her, the late nights, the detachment, and the financial withholding all pointed to an affair. Despite the mounting evidence, my heart refused to accept this possibility. I couldn't bring myself to confront him with this accusation, fearing the confirmation of the truth and the inevitable confrontation that would follow. So, I took a different path instead of seeking the fact I was too afraid to face. I decided to take control of what little I could in our lives. I found a job at a local store, driven more by the need to regain some semblance of control and independence than by any desire to enter the workforce. This job was not just about the financial aspect, it was about proving to myself that I could fend for my family, and that I was not entirely powerless in the face of our deteriorating relationship. Working at the store brought its own set of challenges and rewards. Each day was a struggle to balance my responsibilities at home with those at work, but it also brought a sense of achievement and autonomy that I hadn't felt in years. Slowly, I began to rebuild my self-esteem piece by piece, finding solace in the routine and the small victories of my everyday life. Yet, despite this newfound independence, the shadow of my husband's possible betrayal loomed large. I was caught in limbo, torn between the life we had built together and the growing realization that I might eventually have to confront the painful truth of his infidelity and make some hard decisions about our future. The day he dropped the bombshell on me is etched in my memory with painful clarity. Amidst the chaos of our daily lives and the steady decline of our relationship, I never imagined he would confront me with a devastating reality. He said he was leaving me. For a wealthy woman he had met, he was going to marry her. The words fell between us, heavy with the finality of a closing chapter. The floor seemed to fall away beneath me. A vortex of disbelief and despair consumed me. This revelation shattered me. It wasn't just the betrayal or the abandonment, but the realization of my newfound vulnerability. With 2 children depending on me and no immediate support system to turn to, the future appeared bleak and unforgiving. The thought of him moving on to a life of luxury and ease while we grappled with the pieces of the life he discarded was unbearable. I felt broken, both emotionally and financially. The prospect of single parenthood, coupled with the financial insecurity that loomed over us, was daunting. Where would we go? How would I provide for my children? These questions haunted my every moment, their answers as elusive as the peace I yearned for. The fear of the unknown compounded the pain of his betrayal. I was thrust into a role I was unprepared for, forced to navigate a path I hadn't chosen. The security and stability we had built together were gone, leaving a sense of vulnerability I had never known in their wake. In the depths of this despair, I realized the strength within me. It was a resilience born of necessity, a determination fueled by my love for my children. The road ahead was uncertain and undoubtedly filled with challenges, but I knew I had to rebuild, not just for my sake, but for the sake of my children. The journey of healing and rediscovery was beginning, and though his betrayal's pain lingered, it paved the way for a strength and resolve I never knew I possessed. Life took a drastic turn for the worse after he left. Suddenly, I was solely responsible for our 2 children, with the daunting task of providing for them in ways I never had before. Enrolling them in school became arduous, weighed down by paperwork and fees that seemed to mock my dwindling finances. Each day brought new challenges, each hurdle a reminder of our lost security. I reached out to my family hoping for a sanctuary, if not a solution, but even that door closed on me. My brother, citing his financial constraints and the burden of additional expenses, couldn't offer us refuge. My world, it seemed, was shrinking rapidly, each rejection a stark reminder of the precariousness of our situation. In desperation, I turned to a friend who offered us a temporary shelter. That respite, though brief, was a balm to my frayed nerves. However, it was clear that this arrangement was just that, temporary. Soon, the undercurrents of inconvenience and the strain it put on our friendship became impossible to ignore. With a heavy heart, I realized that this too was not a lasting solution. We had to move on, yet again, into uncertainty. Amidst this turmoil, my job at the store became my lifeline. It was hard juggling work with my children's needs, but it was all we had. Every day was a battle against despair, a constant effort to keep hope alive for a better tomorrow. And then, something unexpected happened. A moment that seemed inconsequential at the time but would change the course of our lives. An older man forgot his wallet at the store one busy afternoon. It was an ordinary wallet, but inside were the means to solve all his immediate problems: debit cards, credit cards, and a significant amount of cash. However, the thought of using it for my gain never crossed my mind. I tracked him down through his ID and called him to return his belongings. He was overjoyed and relieved, deeply thankful for my honesty, in a world where he expected none. Gratitude became an opportunity when he offered me a job at his office. It was a chance I had never dared to hope for, a position that promised a better salary and stability, something my children and I desperately needed. This job was the turning point, the first step toward rebuilding our lives from the ashes of betrayal and loss. As we began to find our footing, my estranged husband resurfaced, and his dreams with the wealthy woman shattered. She had left him, and now he was reaching out, perhaps seeking the comfort of the familiar, maybe even genuinely remorseful. but the pain and growth of the past months had reshaped me. I was no longer the woman he left behind. I had found strength in my struggle and a newfound self-respect. I refused to let him back into our lives. The journey had been harrowing, filled with moments of despair, but it had also been transformative. I was in a good position now, both financially and emotionally. My children were thriving, and I had found a sense of independence and resilience I never knew I possessed.